Can you share any specific wins or results you're especially proud of?
I have been seeing a change in the scale. I'm also not obsessing about it anymore, which I think is also a win. I finally realized and accepted that weight fluctuation is normal. Definitely looking at myself in the mirror, liking what I'm seeing, because I went from avoiding looking at myself, like trying to shy away from any mirror whatsoever in my house, to I remember I went to take a selfie during my trip, and I was like, "Oh, is that me?" Seeing food as comfort versus seeing food as fuel and what I need to give my body in order for me to be able to work out and go on a walk with my dog and read a book and learn a new language, like all the things that I demand for my body. Going out to eat and not feeling guilty afterwards. That's the biggest thing. Being able to enjoy a moment, enjoy a cookie, enjoy a cocktail without feeling like, "Oh my god, why did I eat that? Why did I drink that afterwards?" Yeah, that was the biggest thing for sure. Yeah, I think change in mindset, feeling more empowered, feeling more energized, and just knowing that's not where my value is. I feel like I healed a lot of different sides of myself over the last 3 months, and I'm sure that's gonna continue.
What would you say to someone who's hesitant about investing in themselves with a program like this?
It's never a mistake to invest in yourself. If you can allow yourself to set that money aside to invest in a program like this, it's it's never a waste. It's worth it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Lawson, founder of the Bariatric Success Academy. And today I'm joined with Valeria, who has experienced an incredible transformation through the program. And we're going to dive into her journey from the struggles she faced before joining us to where she is today. And so, Valeria, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I know it's going to inspire others who might be facing similar challenges.
Happy to do it.
Do you mind sharing a bit about yourself, what your journeys looked like, what your biggest struggles have been the last few years, what your weight loss relationship with food journey has looked like as well?
Of course. So, I'm in my early 30s. I'm in the corporate world, and really I've struggled with weight gain and my relationship with food since I was very young. Um, I don't think I ever now looking back, I don't think I ever had, like, a healthy relationship with food. Um, and I realized a lot of those, like, I recognize a lot of the patterns now that I was like, "Well, this in a kid probably wasn't, the healthiest." And my weight always fluctuated. Like, I would do a diet, and I would stick to it when I was in my teens, and I would see some success, but um, it never stuck. I would always fall back to old patterns, stress. I'm a very type A person. And I very anxious about things, very apprehensive about everything being perfect. And I definitely, even to this day, sometimes I have the bad habit of falling back on not prioritizing myself enough. But I do think that I'm a lot more conscious about it, and I'm more proactive. And I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more. But when I was in my late 20s, I went through a terrible loss in my life, and I decided to get weight loss surgery after that loss. I gained a lot of weight. Emotional eating was a big issue at the time, and I gained a lot of weight. And I felt that the best thing for me would be the surgery. I had a couple family members that had the gastric sleeve, so I asked them for their doctor's information. I went to a consult, and they were like, "Yep, you're a candidate. Let's do it. How about tomorrow?"
Lauren.
So, well, not tomorrow. I'm exaggerating a
Oh,
little
okay.
bit, but it like everything happened in the span of a week. I'm not
Wow.
kidding. Yeah, 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 yeah. Everything was like super fast. I don't know if maybe because it was in 2020, so I don't know, maybe the pandemic had something to do with it. But it even then, like, it surprised me like how quick it was to get through all the hoops and just get the surgery. I don't regret going through that, but I don't think I had the best care after the surgery. For the first 2, 3 years, I think I was doing well, in maintaining, but then I started law school. In the middle of that, I was doing that part-time, balancing it with my full-time job, and I started noticing some weight gain. And then throughout 2024, last year, it became a lot more noticeable, and I just felt like I didn't have much control over it anymore. And I just felt very frustrated. And towards the end of the year, once I do think that I used work and school kind of as an excuse to be like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't really pay attention to this other thing in my life that's affecting me. And it kind of like I buried my head in the sand, just kind of like work, 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 study, study, studied. And then once I passed the bar and got sworn into the bar, I was like, okay, now I don't have an excuse. I really need to pay attention to this. And that was around November, which is when I first reached out to you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing all of that. Wow, I didn't know that you got it so quickly.
It was very fast.
Yeah. But it sounds like you probably didn't have a lot of preparation too, right? In
Yeah.
regards of being able to really do much work beforehand.
Yeah, so it was I remember I reached out to the doctor. I had the consult with him. He ordered some tests. I met with the therapist that their office worked with, and with the nutritionist too. That was probably one day after the other, like all those meetings. And they all agreed that I was like a good candidate, that I was in a good spot to get the surgery. And then the surgery was scheduled like a few days after that. Like it was very very quick. At the time, I was very happy to that it was that quick, because I was like, oh, this is awesome. Um, and like I said, I don't regret it at all. I think it was a good decision for myself, because I was in a very dark place. Um, but I think because I was in a very dark place, I also didn't really think of everything that would come after, right? And the first years, I wouldn't call it easy, because it's not easy, but your stomach is really small. You're not producing the hormones that are gonna make you hungry. Like I just couldn't eat, right? Like I was eating what I needed to, and that was that. But I think once real life kind of like started again, and obviously it was in the middle of the pandemic, so I wasn't going anywhere. I was cooking at my house like pretty much all the time. But now once I like things went back to normal, I realized that I never learned how to have a new lifestyle that would fit my new body, my new stomach, basically.
Yeah. And so how were all of these struggles impacting your daily life, your relationships, and maybe even like how you felt about yourself?
Yeah, I think I'm very lucky in my personal relationships, and with my work and with my school. Like I didn't feel like that was directly affected. In fact, I think I prioritized all of that maybe subconsciously to not pay attention. But definitely the relationship with myself is the one that was the most damaged. I really didn't like I avoided looking at myself in the mirror. I think I also struggled with a little bit of body dysmorphia at the time, because like I will look back at pictures when I thought I was overweight, or I hate using the word fat because it has such a terrible connotation, but like when I thought I was fat, and I look at them and I'm like, why were you so mean to yourself at the time? You were beautiful. But I can say that now after going through this whole process. But yeah, so I think to answer your question, I think what was really affected was my relationship with myself, my confidence. I think when I lost a lot of weight after the surgery, I placed my value in how I looked, because people started treating me differently, because I liked going shopping versus before. Like it was like annoying to go shopping, because I was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna find something that I will feel comfortable in, or that I will like. So I think I placed a lot of value in how I looked, that when I started struggling with that, I was just very disappointed in myself, and I was not kind to myself at all.
Yeah. And how long before joining the program did you realize the rigging was a problem, or in your eyes a problem? Like, was there a point where, or a specific moment that made you realize you needed to make a change?
Um, I think it was probably like last year when I started noticing that I was um because yeah, like my clothes maybe started fitting like a little snug, and I was like, oh, I'll just be like really good for a week, and like I'll deep load or whatever. But then when I started like having to buy like bigger sizes, and that happened like twice throughout last year, that I was like, okay, this is really a problem, and not just because of how I look, which is an important part, right, to me, because I enjoy dressing a certain way, or I like looking at myself in the mirror and like liking what I see. So that is important, but also my health. I didn't think that I was being healthy, um, physically and mentally. So it was throughout the last year. But like I said, I think I was also afraid to confront it, and I just kept putting it off. I kept saying like, later, I'll fix it later. I'll fix it later. I have these others, like so many things to do. I'll focus on this later. And towards the end of the year, that's when I realized like, okay, I can't keep going on like this. Like I really need to address it. Because I fell back into an old pattern of when I weigh a certain number or when I look a certain way, I will do these things and I will live my best life instead of living my best life right now. And that really hit me around like in the fall of last year, where I was like, no, like I really need to do something about this, because this can't define me and how I feel. I need to approach it in a different way.
Gotcha. And so you started feeling that way last fall. Something that was very apparent about you when we first met was you wanted to lose weight, but you also knew that you had a problem with your relationship with food, right? I think something that I encounter a lot as a coach on the other side is that people don't realize a lot of the time that the problem lies in their relationship with food. And so, what do you think? Or I guess my question for you is, how do you feel like you knew that?
I think it was a mix of factors that happened last year. Um, and I don't know if I had gone through that much stress in a short period of time, I would have noticed it otherwise. Um, I I was graduating from law school. I was still working full time, preparing for the bar exam. I finally admitted that I needed to take some time off, but I started recognizing these patterns where I would just be super anxious, and I would just grab like a snack and stuff my face with it, and I would be like, I wasn't even hungry. Like why did I do this? And then I would feel guilty about eating a specific meal. Um, that wasn't even that bad. It was a balanced meal, but I had just had that snack. So I was like, I should, maybe I shouldn't be eating this. And I was like, okay, like my priorities and what I'm doing isn't right. And when I, especially when I started noticing that even eating quote unquote good food, because I don't refer to food as bad or good anymore. But what I thought then to be like the good food, I when I started feeling guilty about that, is like, okay, this is a bigger problem. It's not just what I'm eating.
Yeah, got it. And then how did you find me? And what made you
Um,
decide to work with me specifically?
so through Instagram, I think I found you a while back. And the algorithm, I follow a lot of accounts for like recipes and stuff like that. Um, and bariatric like accounts. So I think I you were just suggested to me on my For You page on Instagram, and I started following you. And that probably was earlier in the year last year. And I just kept seeing your content. And then when November rolled around, I was like, I need to talk to someone because I did try seeing a couple nutritionists after the bar exam, but they were not as specialized in a bariatric patient, and also they hadn't gone through it. So when I kept thinking about it, well, like talking to someone that has been in these shoes and that is focused on this type of patient, then I I was like, okay, I have to try this. So that's when I reached out over Instagram. I think I direct messaged you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember. I remember very vividly. Were you skeptical about anything before starting the program?
Um
How did that
I
change over time?
I was skeptical to the point that I felt like all my life I had tried so many things that didn't work. And even the one thing that was supposed to work in my mind, the surgery, didn't work. And at the time I was like, it wasn't that it didn't work. It was that I ruined it. Like that was where my thought process was at, right? It was like I had this opportunity. I was able to afford this and I was able to do this and I put in so much work um after, and I've ruined it. Like I think my skepticism came from that place, from like, okay, I might as well try this because I need to try something. Um, we'll see.
Yeah, amazing. And I think a lot of people feel that way, right? Because if you have bariatric surgery, you're at the point where you're physically amputating your stomach. Like you've tried pretty much anything.
Everything.
Yeah, and everything there is out there. Um, and so what made you feel confident enough to spend money to try this?
I think I think the biggest incentive for me was that I was gonna be talking to someone that had gone through the surgery, that knew what it felt like,
Mm.
and that had because you're very open in your Instagram with what led you to create this program. So I knew that you had had a similar struggle as I had throughout the last year and was specifically having at the end of last year. So that was definitely like the biggest incentive to be like, okay, this is what I need to try next. But there was definitely a part of me where it was like, I need to do something. And I've tried these so many other things. I like, let me try this.
Yeah. And what were you hoping to achieve by joining the program?
I think the biggest thing for me was building a lifestyle that worked for me. Like I didn't want to feel like I was on a diet. I didn't want to feel like I was being too positive about it. Because that can happen too. Where someone is just like, yeah, nothing's bad, just eat what feels right. And it's like, no, like I needed to learn how to feel and how to nurture myself. And that's the mindset that I came in with. But as you remember, and I think my very type A personality didn't allow me to the first month. Like I struggled because I was looking at it as a diet and as a plan that I was like, I need to be perfect. I lost my train of thought.
The all or nothing mentality.
Double or nothing mentality. Yes, I very much started with it because I think that's very prevalent in like all areas of my life and in terms of like work and school and all of that. Because that's just my personality and I've addressed it in other areas. I don't think I ever addressed it with my relationship with food until now.
Mm, yeah. And so how soon after starting the program did you begin to notice positive changes, either physically, mentally, or emotionally? And what was like the first change that you noticed?
I think the when I started noticing changes in myself was until I let go of that all or nothing mindset. And I was like, this is not a you have to get an A plus exam type of situation. This is like you have to find the balance for your life. When I started looking at it, that's when I really started seeing changes in myself. And probably the very first thing was um really being more thoughtful about what I was eating, and not in an apprehensive way, more um in a make a good decision for yourself type of way. When I would reach for maybe a salty snack, call it chips, nuts, whatever, and I would be like, "Are you really hungry, or is this because you're anxious, or is this because you are sad, or because I don't know, you're happy even." That was probably the first thing that I started noticing changing, and then that evolved into um, well, because I would feel like if I had a bad meal, and I'm saying it in quotes because I don't think there is such a thing, but like a not an ideal meal for myself, I would be like, "Oh, I ruined today. So and now I can do whatever. And we'll start again tomorrow. Or we'll start again Monday." And when I stopped, like that's what came after, like not looking at it that way. It's like taking it one step at a time. Like I'm preparing for the whole week, but I'm also taking it one step at a time, making sure that I'm making good decisions as I go throughout my day. But if I go out with my friends and I have dessert, it is fine because I've been doing all of these other great things throughout the week, and I've been working out, and I've been it more of a balance. I think that's been the key word for me throughout this process, like finding that balance.
Amazing. And what were some of the aha moments or breakthroughs that you experienced?
I think the first couple of times that we met, when I would like grade myself, kind of like how I felt I was doing, and any specific goal that I had set for myself the week prior. I remember I would give myself like really low grades, and you would tell me, "But it sounds like things went well. Why didn't you give yourself a higher grade, even a 10?" And I would be like, "Well, because it wasn't perfect." And you would be like, "Does it need to be perfect?" And I'm like, "No." And at first it was like, "No," and then it was like, "No, it doesn't have to be perfect." So I think that was like the when I started being sure in that answer, that was probably the biggest aha moment and the biggest turning point. And that's really when I started seeing a difference in the scale and in how I was feeling, and how my clothes fit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone comes because they want to lose weight, right? But I think what I love about your story is you you really embraced like the mindset shift, right? And what people don't realize is the reason why they regain weight is because they're not currently the person that they need to be to keep it off, right? And and I feel like you've done a really beautiful job of embracing that once you discovered like that's what was needed, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't about like counting calories or how many hours in the gym you work out. Like that stuff, at the end of the day, weight loss is calories in versus calories out, but like there's so many more factors that contribute to a mindset level that influence the in versus out that are so much more important. And I feel like that's something that you really embraced right right after the holidays, right after, you
Yeah.
went abroad, um, had your trip and kind of got back and were like, I don't feel like I did the best during the holidays, but like now I'm ready. Um, and like that was really amazing to see too. And so, you know, how do you feel like the program helped you overcome challenges or blocks that you thought might be permanent?
Um, I think the continuous support throughout the weeks, just having someone keeping myself accountable um to the goals that I was setting for myself, but also having grace with myself and being kind to myself, because I think that was probably one of the biggest issues that I had, is that I wasn't being kind to myself. I was being too rigid, too strict, too negative, which just stressed me out even more and made me want to stuff my face with the salty snack even more. So it was just this vicious cycle. So I think the biggest thing was just that companionship, and also um, just learning how to eat. Because looking back at my experience post surgery, like I was being given these meal plans, which was basically just a diet. It was like Monday, this is for breakfast, lunch, dinner, yours two snacks. Monday through Sunday, like I would have that piece of paper, and I would just follow that. And I was having a lot of protein shakes, especially in the beginning, which I understand is normal, but also I feel like that did me that was a disservice to my experience, because I really never learned how I was supposed to be eating and how I was meant to, like, nurture myself. Because as I mentioned, like, I tried every diet before the surgery. I tried every diet since I was very, very young, from the cut out all carbs and all sugar, which definitely not sustainable, to the here is this medication that's gonna suppress your appetite, to just cut out carbs, for like do like the keto diet for a little while. And it works for a lot of people, but it wasn't something that worked for me. Like I knew that I needed to do something that I could implement in my daily life without feeling like I was being restricted. And that's something that we realized from the very beginning, because I looked at my blueprint and I was like, but can I change this? And you were like, yeah, like this is just a suggestion. This is meant to inspire you to, like, decide what you have to do. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do like my own meals, making sure that I'm meeting my protein goal and my fiber goal and my water intake and all of that. And when I started, I was being empowered to make those decisions, and I knew what I needed to do. That was probably like also the biggest, that the companionship, and that was the biggest things that I got out of the program for sure.
Amazing. Can you share any specific wins or results you're especially proud of?
Yeah, so I think, in terms of quantitative, like, numbers, I have been seeing a change in the scale. I'm also not obsessing about it anymore, which I think is also a win. I think I finally realized and accepted that weight fluctuation is normal, like, depending on where I am in my cycle, where I am, in like, throughout the week, throughout the day even. So I don't obsess over that number anymore. I do weigh myself every other week, just to make sure that I'm continuing this process, right? But I'm not obsessing over it anymore. So I guess two wins there, the quantitative one, but also the not obsessing over it anymore. Definitely looking at myself in the mirror and not like liking what I'm seeing, because I went from avoiding looking at myself, like trying to shy away from any mirror whatsoever in my house, to I remember I went to take a selfie during my trip, and I was like, "Oh, is that me?" Like, I don't know. It just caught me, like, very, very off guard. And I don't think I argue with myself in my head sometimes, and I'm like, "Is that because you lost the weight? Like, you've been losing weight and you were liking more of what you're seeing, or what is it?" And I am very confident in saying that I think it's the change in mindset, in, like, feeling more empowered, feeling, more energized, and just knowing that that's not where my value is. I feel like I've healed a lot of different sides of myself over the last, 3 months, and I'm sure that's gonna continue.
Yeah. What part of the program did you find most helpful in keeping you on track?
Um, I think, 'cause I I probably didn't use the app as much. Well, I used it in the beginning. Like I would take like the pictures and look at what I needed to do and all of that. But I've always been more of a pen and paper person. So I would transfer like I would do all of that too in my paper planner. So eventually I just stopped doing it on the app and started doing and just continued to do it on my planner. So I wouldn't say that necessarily. I think probably not to sound repetitive, but just our weekly sessions were probably the the best thing for me because I felt like I didn't feel like I was being like surveilled on like are you doing what you need to be doing? It was just like a weekly checking of like, okay, I'm an adult. I know what I need to do and you were very clear from that from the beginning, which I really appreciated. Like you didn't want me to feel like I was being in this like super restrictive plan. It was a let's find something that's gonna work for forever. So I think the weekly sessions were the best for me. Yeah.
Awesome. And what tools or techniques in the program have been most impactful for you?
Definitely the stop technique to like really address emotional eating. Um that's probably number one. Um and I think just overall the um like the I'm the word escaping me, but just kind of like that just the flourish framework, right? Where it's like it's not just what you're eating, it's not just how you're exercising, it's all of it. It's everything you're doing throughout your day that and how you speak to yourself that's gonna yield like positive results. So I think those two are the biggest ones.
Awesome. And I know we talked a lot about mindset, but what about habits too? Right? Like what's different about your habits now compared to when you first started?
I think I'm much more mindful of drinking water, of making sure that I'm meeting like I'm having my meals at the right time because one big issue that I had is that I was skipping meals because I was just focusing too much on other things. I wasn't prioritizing me and myself and my well-being over other things like work and school. So just be more mindful of that and like tell myself like you have to put yourself first. Like um be you have to be okay to be able to do all of these things. You have to be thriving to be able to do all of these things that you want to do. Whereas I think before I was just prioritizing all of that and at the very end myself, which was not good.
Yeah. And what's something you can do now or feel now that might have seemed impossible before?
Um, Probably just peace.
Mm.
Yeah, just like this feeling of being calm, of not having anxiety all the time, um, of of just um of just being. I've been preparing like on Sundays for my whole week, so I don't feel like I'm scrambling anymore um to have my meals when I have to have them or to do certain things when I have to do them. So um I it's funny and a little sad like looking back where I'm like I've always been a very organized person with my school, with my work, with all of that. But I don't think I ever implemented that in my nutrition, in my even in like my vitamin intake. Like I would take them like all over the place throughout the day. And now I'm like no, like I'm just as I'm planning for my week in terms of like the tasks that I have to do, I'm also planning my meals, and with still some flexibility, but I'm prepared for my week, and I think that has contributed a lot um to feeling this way. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, like meal planning is certainly nothing new to me, but I don't think I ever knew how to meal plan or how to approach it in a way that would work for me, and for my household.
Yeah. And so, since you bring up household, I know a lot of folks, have partners on this journey too. And you def I remember at the very beginning, you were like, I want to do something that doesn't negatively impact my partner. Can you kind of tell me a little bit more about that and how you either, like, what parts of this you brought him into, what parts you might have left him out of, and like what that looked like?
Yeah, so I think in the beginning I was because there was this skepticism from like everything that I had gone through in my life since I was a teenager in terms of the dieting culture and not feeling good about my body. I think especially in the beginning I was very much like, okay, I'm doing this myself. I won't like I obviously like I live with him. Like I would share with him like this is what I'm preparing for the week because he would also eat from that, you know? But I wasn't like too open with him about like this is exactly what I'm going through. Once I started seeing changes and I was like, okay, this is working, this is real. Um, that's when I started sharing it with him. And I think now like I think he's also inspired to address some of and not to speak for him at all, but to have like a bit of a healthier lifestyle, because he's also guilty of skipping meals. So, I think he's inspired to adopt some of the things that I've been doing, for himself as well.
Awesome. And then are there activities or experiences that you can now enjoy that weren't possible before? I can think of one.
Yeah, I can't. So definitely like going out to eat
Yeah.
with feeling guilty. Yes, that's the one that you were thinking. Okay,
Just
yeah,
like eating a cookie.
a cookie. Yes, I remember you were like, you can eat a cookie. And I was like, can I? Yeah. So yeah, like going out to eat and not feeling guilty afterwards. That's the biggest thing. Just like enjoy, like being able to enjoy a moment, enjoy a cookie, enjoy a cocktail. Like without feeling like, oh my God, why did I eat that? Why did I drink that afterwards? It yeah, that was the biggest thing for sure.
Yeah, I remember the tacos. That was like the first time that you told me when you were in New York. That was the first time you told me about like a meal you ate and you ate like mindfully and slowly and really savored them and did not feel guilty after. And I was like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that trip was like a big test for sure. Because I I I had prepared some things to take with me to be able to balance things out in a healthy way, but I also wanted to give myself the opportunity to enjoy some of the things that I wanted to do. And food, I mean, food's delicious. So, I planned our days out like this is what we're gonna do each day. And we knew we wanted to go to this pizza place and this taco place and this bagel place. And I was like, I felt very nervous. I was like, oh, like, is this gonna ruin what I've been doing? And then like at the end of the trip, I was like, oh, like that was great. Like I had a great time. I enjoyed the outings that we had, enjoyed the food that we tried. I didn't feel guilty. And then Monday came around and I was back home and back to the routine and it was fine. Like it was okay.
Yep. You didn't die.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yep.
And it didn't ruin anything. Like it it's life. Like it's impossible to not go out ever again. in life. It's impossible to not have a slice of cake ever again. I love cake on my birthday, so it's fine.
Yeah, it sounds sad never having a piece of cake on your birthday again. Yeah. And
Right.
so, how would you describe your relationship with food before the program, and how would you describe it now?
Um, Now I think definitely like a much healthier relationship with food. I don't I don't feel guilty as I'm eating or after I'm eating. Like I mentioned earlier, I think I got to the point where I was even feeling guilty when I was eating even like healthier balanced meals just because I had already eaten something like poorly throughout the day and like why are you eating that? Like I was coming from a place of maybe don't eat anything just to make up for what you ate earlier today. Um and I mean that's obviously not healthy. That's probably even worse than eating the meal. So that's yeah, that's the I see the transition from feeling guilty all the time when I was eating and dreading like going out or eating certain things to now being like I can enjoy this sandwich from this restaurant that I'm having lunch, like a work lunch with my coworker. And it's fine.
Yeah. Would you say that you actually enjoy food more now?
I think so. I'm a lot mindful definitely when I'm eating and I'm more present.
Yeah.
Um
I've never asked anyone that, but I was when you were talking, I was just thinking about it, and I'm like, it sounds like before, right? It might have been more about consumption and filling the void, whatever that might have been, and now it's a lot more about en enjoying and savoring, um, mindfully nourishing.
yeah. Yeah. Definitely the seeing food as comfort versus seeing food as fuel and what I like I what I need to give my body in order for for me to be able to do like workout and go on a walk with my dog and read a book and learn a new language like all the things that I demand for my body like I need to nourish it and I don't think I was seeing it that way
Mhm.
but until now. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And so, you've learned a ton, changed your relationship with food. Obviously, all that comes at a price, and it's not cheap at all, right? So, what would you say to someone who maybe like you has tried everything out there, did the surgery, might have spent thousands of dollars on the surgery, and is like another thing, right? What would you say to someone who's hesitant about investing in themselves with a program like this?
I would say that it's never a mistake to invest in yourself. Like if you can allow yourself to set that money aside to invest in a program like this, it's it's never a waste. It's worth it. I think a lot of times we spend a lot of money on things, on material things, where like for example, I love handbags and I love clothes. And I can spend a lot of money on handbags and clothes. But then when it comes to to spending money on my well-being, call it it can even be like a facial or even a therapy session like sometimes we tend to or not to speak for anybody else but speaking about my experience in the past like I would be like oh do I really want to spend that money on that and it's like no like spending on yourself and your well-being is never going to be a waste so I would say if you can allow that financially for yourself do it.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to others who are starting their journey and might be where you were 3 months ago?
I would say Um, the biggest thing is be kind to yourself. Um, Try to be a lot and it's painful, like, try to be more aware of the negative feelings that you have about yourself, how you speak to yourself. It it matters a ton. And just have grace and keep I think keep the word balance at the forefront of your mind. It's like we said earlier, it's not an all or nothing type of thing. It's a I'm gonna find the balance that works for me to be healthy, and feel good.
And then last question, is there anything else you'd like to share that maybe we haven't covered or anything about your experience working with me or the program?
Um, I think we've talked about everything. I would just say that, just not to repeat myself, but just reiterate, like, investing in yourself is never a waste. Um, and particularly, like, if you are someone that has gone through the surgery, that keeps having these struggles, I think that there is something valuable about being supported by someone that has gone through the same experience. Um, because there are a lot of stigmas out there about the surgery being the easy way out, or people not being to lose weight because they don't want to, and that is not it. Um, so being with someone that and working with someone that has gone through the same thing, I think it brings um another side to this journey that I had never had before, and I think it's definitely a plus.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Valeria, for sharing your experience. Really appreciate it.
Of course, happy to do it.